that was fun. Let's have her go in reverse again. She flies. Okay. Okay, forward. Hello and welcome to another zany episode of Nerdy West Coast Swing, the podcast with pixels where the anchors are out of this world and the points don't matter. We are here to help train your eyes so you can learn faster and dance better. I am Cassie Winter.
I'm Alicia Marshall. If you're wondering who are we to be analyzing these pros, Cassie and I both have extensive training and experience in both partnered and solo dancing. Cassie has about 23 years and I have about 25. Tonight we are looking at First Place Showcase, which is kind of a continuation of our last one because we looked at the First Place for Classic. So I don't think I have any overall.
Yeah, neither do I. But before I share the link, just a reminder that we are hosting the Breakfast with Champions at SWINGCOUVER, not this weekend, but next weekend for New Year's. And we will not be accepting live questions in the room. So that's why we're asking people to submit questions in advance. And Sarah has told us that it will be live streamed. So if you can't attend the event live, you still have the opportunity to get your question answered by one or all, could be a group answer, to your burning questions from the amazing panelists we're going to have. So for those watching the recording on YouTube, down in the description box below is a link to an Airtable form where you can just submit your question.
Does everyone know what pros are going to be on this panel? I don't know.
Here, let's go to the list. Jordan and Tatiana, Maxime and Tori, Mark and Charlotte, Miles and Tessa, Joel and Chantel, Benji and Ben Morris, Kyle and Sarah themselves, and Larissa and Christy Mond. That is the list that was given to us.
And Kyle and Sarah is a maybe.
Oh yeah, they're a maybe. So. But you know, they'll be hovering at least.
Yeah. So, if we get any questions for Kyle and Sarah, we'll let them know. We'll have them answer.
Yeah. Alrighty. So now back to the link. So First Place Showcase was Glenn Ball and Emily. Huang. I'm not even going to try. Say that?
Emily Huang.
Huang. Okay. And I'm going to go ahead and drop the link in the chat. Go ahead and give it a watch. And when you're done, we will get to analyzing. I think before we dive into the screen share, one of the things I want to highlight is just the choreography choices make it really clear what they're accenting. And that's something I really enjoy in a choreography, because sometimes you get choreography and you're not quite sure what in the music, be it lyrics or instrumental, that they're trying to accent at any given time, because there's just like too much going on. And the clarity in this choreography with the music is just absolutely fantastic. And it's one of the reasons why it's so impactful watching it.
I also, not quite the same thing, but what I do like about this routine is that their movements are so projected and large and very clear. And that's something that you don't always see with routines, having that really large movement where because there's a difference between what you're doing on like a social floor or even just like a normal comp floor that's not for routines. And there's a difference between that and you being the only couple on the floor and having a huge room to fill the energy. And like, that's something that I tend to feel like is missing with a lot of routines in general, is that big presence. And, that's something that is a skill that really is, developed as you go along in your dance journey. But I always really appreciate it when a routine can really project. And I think that it just really enhances the viewing experience.
Definitely agree. All right. To the screen share and the rhinestones. But for those who didn't have the opportunity to watch this live, albeit like in person or on Global Dance TV, you always have to like sweep the floor in between routines to make sure there's no debris, because that can be really dangerous for performers. And I would say this was the time that took the longest to sweep, but they were very thorough, and I'm glad, because like a stray rhine zone, bad news.
Yeah, not good on a performance floor.
Yeah.
Not good on a social floor either, but probably less. You can be paying attention to your surroundings a little bit more.
Yeah.
Anyways.
All right. So I think the first thing that like really sticks out to me is placement. So they're actually starting their routine closer to us in the audience. A lot of times it's like right in front of this thing, way back in the back. And so it's nice to switch it up every once in a while,
Mm-hmm. And the reason that a lot of couples do that, where they start in the back corner, is because you can very easily progress the routine across the floor forward, diagonally forward, whatever, towards the audience. You all know what I mean. You can progress it a lot easier when you start in the back, and it looks like there's a lot more movement happening when you start all the way in the back. Not that there's anything wrong with starting in the middle. It's really choreographer's opinion, but it can be a lot easier to choreograph that floor movement, floor craft, when you start in a corner.
Right. So one of the other things that I really appreciate about this choreography is the establishment of character. Like within the first like 2 8 counts, you know who each, like who Glenn is playing, who Emily is playing, and what their relationship is. Because like Glenn is playing a player, as it were. And like this part right here where it's metaphorically like showing like pursuing someone with the kind of moonwalk Running Man. And then when he turns to look at us in the audience with the eyebrow raise and his like megawatt smile is just so fantastic.
Glenn is a really fantastic performer. Especially in routines. I was really enjoying watching his routines.
Yeah. And then Emily is playing like the pursued, and yet her character is the one that is 1,000% in control in the like the power dynamic between the two in the story of the dance. And it's interesting because I think we've spoken about before how if we don't understand the context for a really strong emotion, like it's really jarring. It's like where are we? What is going on? I think we talked about this in our storytelling and music theory episode. And the way they do it is it's really like a lot of emotion really fast, but the context is also really clear. Like, could you imagine if this opening of this routine did not have that kind of footwork of Glenn just kind of moving nowhere, but clearly trying to move towards her? Like if that wasn't there, it would be missing a huge piece of the context that we need to like get on board with the routine.
Well, and also the initial like little flirtation at the beginning where she grabs his face and pulls it towards her, and then he does the little drag up the leg, and that is enough really to establish that there's something going on here. And then you can see that develop into him trying to, run after her, whatever. And then we can get into like really big emotions, but it's right away, it's not big emotions necessarily projected towards the audience. It has a little bit of a buildup. So I think that's always important to have at least something establishing where we're at here.
And then this moment's lovely, like the callback, because she just shoved him away and then he pulled her towards him. It's just like a escalating sequence of call and response throughout this whole routine.
So something that I think is interesting to take into consideration is their height difference. With Showcase, generally, it's a lot easier when you have a partner that's going to be doing the majority of the, air work.
Yeah.
I can't say floor work. The majority of the, being lifted. It's a lot easier when they are smaller than the person that is doing the lifting. But it really depends. Like, that's something that you can work around, obviously. And, if you're thinking of doing a routine and you have somebody in mind, like, don't let that sway you. But I think that it, has to be choreographed a specific way. And they have a lot more that they can do because of their height difference, like kind of what they were just doing there. Because she's so much smaller than him, it's a lot easier for him to counterbalance her without having to do so much.
Yeah, because they're able to get these really extreme oppositions. Like, he's not having to do equal and opposite shape. He's just having to do equal and opposite weight. So he's able to just squat straight down right here instead of having to like lean in this direction to counter her because of how small she is. And that makes the shape that she's in just so much more impactful by comparison.
Yeah. I also want to quickly talk about how they're going into this. So they're foot to foot, and his foot is what's stopping hers and holding it in place so she's not sliding towards him as she's dropping back. So you can see right there, her inner foot is to his outer foot. And that's where it stays. Because otherwise, if you don't have that foot there to stop, you're going to slide.
Yeah, her foot would slide that way.
Especially because he has that force, he's pulling on her leg. You're going to move around. You have to have that stoppage. And they get out of it in a really creative way, because the way that they have their feet is not the most comfortable.
That's one way of putting it.
So what they do is they allow her to roll out of it opposite, so that she's just swinging around instead of having to like step out of it or something. And that's a really smooth way to get out of it. Basically, they're just letting the heel drop back and moving around the toe. They're doing something very interesting, the way that they're switching hands.
Oh, yeah.
It looks like a continuation the way that they're doing it, because he's stepping over and kind of hiding the hands. And you can see she's reaching, but like, you don't really think that that's exactly like she's reaching for his back. So you don't necessarily look directly at the other hand that's kind of switching around.
Yep. Because it's really sneaky, because it's literally the same hands connected before and after, but there's a break.
Yeah, it's once
Very
she gets
seamless.
her weight up over her own feet, Glenn can kind of let go and switch. What I really wanted to talk about, though, is this little prep into these turns. So this is something that I feel like it doesn't necessarily get talked about a lot, like this type of connection, right? Because she's the one that's having to really assert that like pressing movement into him in order to kind of finish her prep and like resist away. And that helps so that when they unwind, it's a lot snappier. Yeah.
So she's using this handhold. And then I want to add from a leader's perspective, because it's really kind of intuitive to just keep moving your right hand as a leader to your right infinitely, hit a stopping point, and then come back. But the really important thing to understand is that as soon as the follow has completed this much rotation, you're starting to resist their movement with this hand. So you're not pushing into this position, you're actually doing a resisted release into that position to help provide some braking power for the follow. Because socially, it's entirely possible to lead this, and the follow wouldn't know to put their hand there necessarily. And it's really important that as a follow, you know where the stopping point is. And that means you need to communicate the stopping point ahead in time of when you want it to happen, and space, both time and space. It's like if you start braking at the stoplight, you're going to stop in the middle of the intersection. This is bad news.
I keep seeing Glenn's face, like the frame that you're.
It is fantastic.
He's so enthused.
So interesting. This is the arm position that she comes out of this with is one of those things that like you wouldn't know to tweak until you know you're being filmed from a very particular angle, right? And so like I wonder if after this they've decided to move her arm a little bit more this way, so that way we're seeing her face in this moment. Because like if you're on this side of the room, no problem. If you're on this side of the room, can't see your face.
I mean, it depends on where you're performing. Obviously for the open, probably would have been more ideal to have it a little bit more out away from her, but like that's the level of nitty gritty that you get into when you're in a routine. Like, like I think last time we were talking about just how purposeful Cameo's choice in point versus flexed ankles was, for example. Is it an open routine without some sort of kung fu arm shenanigans? I think not. I mean, it's very fun to watch at speed.
I love it so much. And it's definitely one of those that's more of an illusion of complexity. Like it's pretty simple, but just the fact that it's happening like all together seamlessly makes it look a lot more complicated.
That illusion.
Ooh, that sequence of them passing each other was lovely. Let me find my starting frame. Because they're essentially doing an open telemark is what's going on right here. So Emily is being led in an inside free spin. And then because it's choreography, you could not lead this. You could not lead a telemark from an inside free spin and just like mind meld, like get out of the slot, follow. Can't do that. It's a choreography only thing. But you can see how much she is continuing her rotation and stepping back out of the slot with her left foot right there. So that way she's on the rail and Glenn has a slot to move through. And actually, that's like a really great example. If you're having a hard time seeing that in a actual lead telemark because the partners are so close to each other, this is actually a really great example. Because like as a leader, you're trying to get a follow to have the momentum to go off the slot. And then as a follow, you need to continue your momentum and get out of the slot like Emily is doing. To be tiny enough to neck roll like that. There's like, I've danced with maybe 4 or 5 different people who are tall enough for me to just like walk under their arm. Each time it's a treat. Oh my goodness. Do you want to talk about this connection a little bit? This kind of under and over the arm? Because that's like a really unique way to connect with a partner. But
it is. It's very interesting because basically a lot of times you don't so much see quite as much away energy with this type of connection because it does pull on the elbows and lock them out. But just the way that they're grabbing, he has her arm like on top of her arm, which is helpful. He's not reaching onto the side. And it's a little bit more on the side, but it's still, they're trying to go more on top. And it's not so much like they're not really
pinching with their fingers.
Right. And they're not really
not crabs
all that much. They're just wrapped on the forearms for the most part. And it's really like kind of one of those illusions almost where it looks more unnatural than it actually is.
Right.
Just because of the way that they have their hands.
Yeah. And you can't necessarily get perfect away tension. Instead, it's this point where their forearms are meeting. And Emily's forearm is trying to come towards us and the camera, and Glenn's is trying to go away from us. And that's where the connection is coming from. And then I want to highlight, because one of the things I harp on a lot here on Nerdy is the chain of cause and effect. And you can really see how it is Emily's inertia that is shaping Glenn here through the end of his anchor. Because he's very much stepping towards us in the audience while being pitched away from Emily to counter her. And then as he lets her finish her movement, you can see that he is rotating and extending his arm and moving the center counterpoint towards her so she can finish her settle. And the sequence of what's going on is appropriate for the physics. So this is like a connected moment, and it's happening appropriately, as opposed to, Aaron says in the chat, the brace, right? He's defying physics with these walks right here. And yet he's not. It's just, it looks fancy. And the tell for me is how his head is delayed and his body is turning to the left, which is forcing his head to turn.
Yeah.
So many eyebrow raises. I'm just now noticing them all from Glenn in slow motion.
He does do a lot of that. Got to make sure you're paying attention.
Yep.
Let's call back to the beginning, which is with a little kind of break after doing quite a bit.
Yep.
They have that like slide incorporated quite a few different ways in this routine. And it's something that like, it has a really fun visual that it gives. Like there's kind of when they're walking across the floor, and then it kind of, there's this gliding look. And it just kind of changes it up a little bit.
It's satisfying watching it in reverse.
It looks like, to me, Emily is helping power her slide backwards by the way that she's picking up and placing the foot.
Yeah, she's giving herself a little bit of a shove. So it's giving us the illusion that it's his chest that's like creating the slide, when it's not. It's just an extra connection point. Which, I don't blame them, because putting my hand on that on his chest looks painful. It looks sharp.
It does. It does.
All right, we're going into some more really impressive showcase shenanigans.
Yep.
And is it a Glenn routine without someone standing on his shoulders?
No.
Because it was Khalees, right, that does that and then like did a somersault off of him. Boy, the very first time I saw that routine was live.
Yep.
And I swear the breath left my chest. I was like, oh my God.
It looks like they were about to die.
It's so terrifying, because like if you're off to the side and when you're like watching it from the front, you can't tell how far they're both pitching forward before Khalees like actually breaks away. Whereas when I saw it in person, I was towards the end of the thing, and so I saw them just like the leaning tower of them, two very oh god.
I actually want to talk about for a second what Glenn's doing. So with any type of lifts, you have to have a really solid base, and this is one of those that looks a lot less secure than it is, because what's unstable about it is mostly just her feet on the shoulders, but he has 1 foot in front, 1 foot behind, and he has 2 hands out. So he has 4 points where he has like extra weight. And so her weight right on top of him is not just like coming straight down, it's kind of spread out.
Yeah, he's giving him 2 opposing corners of a box on the floor. So he's got like all directions covered. And I would imagine the part that is straining for balance for Emily right now is her ankles, because she's on a non-solid surface.
Yeah. But that depends on how, I feel like different people would probably handle that balance different.
That's fair. Glenn is a human Bosu ball.
That drop looks like it does not feel good. The back of the neck.
Warning, do not attempt without a solid neck. Oh yeah, the core strength.
Yeah.
For her to be able to do that. Well, that was fun. Let's have her go in reverse again. She flies. Okay. Okay, forward.
Showcase is always fun to frame through.
Yup. Yeah, because you can tell by how far her feet are coming up, then you notice how low her hair is. Like, this is her hair. Like, she's almost inverting.
And I mean, a lot of it is momentum and reversing the momentum. Just kind of that like work with gravity, not against it thing.
Yeah. And then Glenn switched stance a little bit as she was coming up for extra stability. And I think also to hit something in the music. But wait, there's more! Safe. Oi, okay, all together now. So, climb. Feel victorious, but it's not over yet. Avert death. Yeet. See your life flashing before your eyes as the floor gets way too close to you, too fast. And do a slide out.
Yep.
It's as simple as that, y'all. Just go for it. No, do not try this at home. Please do not. Especially without, doing the math of your height plus your partner's height and then what the ceiling height is. Ouch.
Another slide.
I
do
like
like
this
hop. Yeah.
Because it's pretty common to see a leader kick over a smaller follow, or even a taller one that just can get to the floor really quickly, like Cameo, where she like moved at warp speed. But usually the leader's just in place and lifting their leg. So that's just like an extra bit of complexity and I would imagine muscle cramping.
I do really like that they kind of have multiple things that they recall but do in a slightly different way throughout the dance, like the slides and some of the leg stuff.
Yep.
This is another kind of slide moment. I really like I like the creativity and like going to the floor and pulling together.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I just noticed his right hand as they're standing back up again. Because it's like a playful war between two people that are, it's like pursuer, chaser. Wait, that's the same thing. Pursuer, pursuee. I cannot English, as we all know. Hopefully I got my bad joke across. But like their characters are still really clear.
Yeah.
Especially right there. Look at his face. He looks so bereft. This is amazing. Like and the way she really takes this moment. I don't think I'd noticed his face before, because usually my attention is on her watching that moment. But Glenn is just totally selling it. It is fantastic. And he just likes her more. His character just likes her more. It's amazing.
Another incorporation of the sliding.
Mm-hmm. And this time it's his hand on sharp things. Because usually there isn't like strings and strings of rhinestones on the thigh of your partner that you're leaning on. So
yeah.
Props. I'm someone who experiences sensory icks, and thinking about that, I'm just like, no.
I do like that we are progressing across the floor as we're going through this. It's not like super dramatic, like they're not really intentionally like traveling it. It's just kind of happening based on what they're doing. And I think that's really good choreography.
Yeah. And we're now a little bit past the halfway mark. And it's clear that they're escalating the complexity and the traveling of what they're doing along with the music. And safe again. Okay, where's the beginning of that? Okay, we're gonna...
The cartwheel.
Yep. All right, we'll go from here. When I first started partner dancing, I was sad that I'm basically 6 feet tall. Watching this stuff, I'm like, I'm really glad I can't be tossed around, because that is not something I am meant to do. Tossing someone else around, I could be convinced. Being tossed, no.
So, looking at what they're actually doing, he is grabbing her at the halfway point, at a stable position though.
He's trying to get like his elbow right in her side waist.
Yep. And a lot of this is from momentum, like he's not just grabbing her and picking her up, because you can see they're going down to meet, and then we're coming up.
Yeah, it's as if she were to be trying to do a cartwheel without hands on her own, and just with like a little less momentum thrown into it, because he'll be able to assist, but still momentum thrown into it.
And then he switches not to the other waist, but to the armpit. Because he needs this like ability to let her finish going all the way around.
Yeah. And also this way he's able to get like his entire left arm along her right side for stability and support. And then she can just release when she needs to, or when he needs to get that arm under her legs.
So this is something that, like, from her perspective, like, you really do need to have a really solid core when you're going through this. If you don't, it's very hard.
Yeah. Both for her and it would also be for Glenn.
Yeah. And that might seem kind of like counterintuitive almost because it feels like it's like a flip in the air. But because they're doing this in a connected manner, she has to be a whole piece for him to move around. Like with these types of lifts, it's generally not helpful if you are in multiple pieces.
Yeah, you need to be
So if you're relaxed.
solid instead of wiggly.
Yeah.
All right, we lost a lot of rhinestones on that one.
Yep.
But I don't think it's the worst.
I was just watching them fly off.
The worst is yet to come. Oh, I love this trick. Like
this is one of those way doable because she's short.
Yeah. But like there are very few tricks and lifts kind of things that surprise me anymore or like delight me in a surprised way.
Yeah.
And this is definitely one of them.
Yeah.
But yeah, if she were tall, this would not be a thing.
Nope. So
his face. Oh my God. He's like, that was no big deal. What are you talking about?
So we have her holding on around the leg, like she's not gripping. She's holding around it so that she can slide around. And you can see what he's doing basically is she has her one leg up. So that's kind of starting some energy going back the other way, from the lower body, at least. And that's where he's catching. And so that's the initial point. But he then like kicks up behind her to assist the rest of the way.
Yep. And then I want to highlight how his simple right left footwork is doing so much of the work right here. So he's planted his right foot, but Emily's still in like a trust fall stage at this moment. And he then moves and places his left foot and he's basically in a squat. And at this point, you've hit the end of the trust fall and she can just hold onto his leg and hang out there for as long as she needs to. And that point is really important to hit before the yeet, for lack of a better term, because it would be incredibly dangerous to skip past that stage and just have her falling and then spinning. This moment of stability right here in the middle is so key to this sequence. And it's also helping him transition the weight. So you can see he places his left foot. They've got that stability. And then he lets his momentum continue towards that foot and he pushes off of his right leg to stand. But he's not just standing, he's shifting his weight towards his left foot, which is helping give the direction, not just the momentum that she needs. I want 60 frames per second West Coast swing filming. Okay, Global Dance, have you heard me? It's like, I don't care about 4K. I don't need to see each individual rhinestone. I want less motion blur. I want more information about what's happening.
So that was kind of
that's really distracting, Kayla. It's so cute. Anyways, was it before or after the Elvis that you wanted to talk?
I was just, you can keep going. I was just
okay.
Say that trick was kind of their really big moment towards the end of the dance.
Yeah. There's one more. It's like the figure skating one. But that one is a little bit more on par, like to be expected from a showcase.
Yeah, it's because that was the like with a climax of the music.
Gotcha. Here we go. This is Max Rhinestone loss right here. And this is another one of those moments where her being able to be as solid as possible is so important.
Yeah. Personally, this hurts my shoulder to watch.
Same.
Like, really, it's not that complex because you're really working with that momentum and, you know, the weight that you each have. But it's more about having the stability of the shoulder and being able to hold everything together really well.
Yeah. It's less about being able to lift Emily, but for both of them to be able to keep their joints together.
Yeah.
And seeing, like, I think I saw her having hypermobile fingers earlier, and I'm like, is she also one of us? Which would make the shoulder thing that much more impressive if she was. But that's like the kind of strength that I bet she can do chin-ups, that kind of thing, because that requires a lot of strength.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at how shiny the floor is. Rhinestones everywhere. Yeah, and then this is just the last hallelujah. Oi, these always stress me out. This is another one that's harder to do, the taller the follow.
Yeah.
They just make it look so easy. And then I love how she leads him out for the very end.
Yeah.
And she's totally prepping him too. Like, I know that's part of the choreography, and having connection is important with choreography too. But like, she's all like, I'm going to send you to the right. So I'm going to send you to the left first. Yep. Yeah. He looks so bewildered. Oh my God, that was so amazing. Oh, that was great. I am also exhausted, however.
Just watching it.
How exhausted they would be.
Yeah. Make sure you guys submit any questions for our Breakfast of Champions panel. You will get them answered. You will be able to hear the answers because we will be live streaming. So, and Cassie also read the list of the pros that'll be on the panel. So you should be able to decide which one or ones you want to ask a question to.
Yeah. And you can also just ask one to the general group and see who gets excited.
Yeah.
That's my preferred method of asking questions on a panel form.
Yeah. I feel like it's a lot of times not the ones you expect.
Right. I'm now imagining, we won't do this, but this is just my brain having fun. Them all sitting in a circle. There's only one microphone, and we put it in the center, and then you and I stand back, and then we ask the question, and then they have to run and get the microphone. Definitely not going to make them do that, especially New Year's Day. That would be the definition of cruel and unusual. But maybe I'll keep that one in my back pocket for a future. That sounds good for games, though. That sounds good for tap. I'll tell Chuck and Meech about it.
Alrighty. Well, thank you all for joining us. And this will be coming out on Christmas.
Wow, it will. Merry Christmas. Happy holidays. What is time? Explain this to me.
Right.
I'm not a fan. The whole linear thing is just anyways, I'm going to stop the recording. Bye.